Hello again. Today's footage, I was working to get rid of some material so I could actually start working on the flooring for the spare room trailer. First thing I gotta do is get me a fire going because it was definitely a little chilly and wet that day, and having a whole lot of scrap is perfect for having a little fire. But the main focus of today was to just get rid of some of the more usable scrap, I guess, and take advantage of the fact that I had a bunch of boards, and I keep working on the making some pallets for the lumber. The primary function of the pallets is obviously to move the lumber, but one of the secondary benefits of having it on one of the pallets is that it actually allows airflow under the boards so they dry a little easier and better, and also to keep the lumber from touching the metal of the forklift, or of the pallet forks. Some wood species are more susceptible to this metal staining than others, but so far all of them have actually had that problem, where wherever I've had a board that I've put directly on the pallet forks, if for any length of time, like more than, I don't know, half an hour, I don't know exactly how quickly it starts to show up, but for, especially if it's been there for a day or two, wherever they're touching that metal, it turns black from staining from the iron or something. I don't understand the chemistry of it, but I know it's a problem, so that's one of the things that the pallets will help eliminate. One of the other advantages, is the obvious advantage of a pallet, is that whenever you're using a pallet, you can easily move things with pallet forks. So that's always a bonus. And at the moment, I'm just kind of wandering around trying to figure out a game plan. Sort of trying to sift through, and that's one of the challenges, is having to always set up my workstation and tear it down every day. Now that I've actually been working on the floor, I have a table saw actually set up in there, so now all I have to do is plug it in and can basically get started on things. And I think I put up at least one or two of the upper boards here. This is where the frames from a couple of videos ago come in handy, because now I can attach a runner or a girt across that frame, and it'll help ensure that there's a solid corner there to have everything attached to. And it might be a little overkill having done both bumping up the frame and having the girt run across there, but as I've always been proud of, I don't mind building things stronger than they need to be. I would much rather do that than ever build things weaker than they need to be. And since I'm not an engineer, I would always rather err on that side of caution and overbuild. So I'm taking some of the scrap pieces from the rafters from when we cut them off, and marking them up and cutting them in 5-inch pieces, so they're 4-inch by 6-inch and 5-inch long. And I did the same thing with some of the post pieces, so they're 4x4x5, and whenever I have something in that size range, then that's something I'll do, is set them aside and just keep making more pallets, because I'm pretty sure I'll never have too many pallets. I got tired of the smoke since I was working right there, and figured a little blast of air from a leaf blower would help get that fire going a little bit faster. And it kind of does. It still takes it a minute to get the coals going really well, since I ended up putting a bunch of wet lumber on there, which, you know, that always smokes. But that leaf blower has been an amazing purchase. I've loved having it. I've used it to clean the tractor. I've used it to clean the dirt and dust off of the tool shed floors. I've used it to stoke many fires. In fact, if I have a fire going, it's pretty much guaranteed to be pretty close, within 15 feet. The one thing I use it to clean the sawmill. The one thing I pretty much have never done is blow leaves with it. Most of the areas, I just don't care if leaves fall. They decompose and become food for the grass and trees and whatever, and I've never been a big fan of cleaning up leaves. I don't recall ever being one of those kids that like jumped into a leaf pile either. I don't have any memories of doing that. Maybe that's my problem. But anyway, so what I'm doing now is stacking things. I ended up cutting enough of the lumber, or of the blocks, to make 3 8-foot wide pallets with 5 dividers, one every 2 feet. And this is in addition to the 6-foot long pallet that I made, or 6 foot wide. One thing that I've changed with these 8-foot ones versus the 6-foot one is the 6-foot one I did 4 feet deep, thinking that would be ideal for the forks since they're 4 feet long. But that actually turned out to be a little bit of a challenge, because sometimes if there are stickers or things like that, you can't quite get the pallet forks all the way in under it. So I'm probably going to eventually have to shorten that 6-foot pallet just a little bit, so it's like 42 inches. So it's about 3.5 feet deep instead of the full 4 feet deep. That way I can just guarantee that the forks are going to be under it, even if I can't push them quite all the way under. So now I'm just squaring off one end of all of these boards, and then I'll turn them around and eventually measure them all out. I try to do things in batches whenever I can. It definitely, no matter what you're doing, it goes faster when you can do that and do things in stages, instead of doing like cut one end of the board and then flip it and then cut the other end and then nail it into place and then cut one end of another board, and so on and so forth. So I just cut the ends of all of them, and there were a few of them that I needed to see how long they actually were, like that one I just did, where I did actually cut both ends because one side was rotted, so I wanted to make sure I got enough out of it. And then I'm stacking the cut pieces, same thing, just kind of grouping them so I have an idea of what I'm working with. And once that fire got going, you can see that it doesn't smoke at all, and it was warm enough all the working around there that obviously I didn't need my jacket anymore. And then some of them where they've got a little bit too much rot, too much wane, things like that, then they just get cut into little 1-ish foot pieces, and those will get gathered up and become firewood. double checking my counts there, making sure I have enough to do what I need. And then this was a great way to clear out this area of a pretty good amount of lumber. I've harvested pallets in the past, and I've used pallet wood for all kinds of different things, and I've never put much thought into how much lumber it actually takes to make one. It was just a little bit of a surprise, I guess. I thought I had quite the stash stacked up over there. It turns out I burned through most of my scrap wood pieces doing this. So, like I said, anytime I have that, where I'm trying to get to a point where I've got that main cant, and I'm cutting off little 1-inch strips. If they're thick enough to be an actual 1x, then I can use them for siding and whatever. And if they're too much weighing, things along those lines, then they can be set aside and used for all kinds of little crates and projects like this. I ended up taking once I got the table saw up here, I ended up cutting a little roughly 2 foot by, I think, 18-inch by 16-inch tall box that I've started using for a sticker storage. So after I pull boards off, I'll take the stickers and throw them in that box. I was also able to use the table saw to clean all of the stickers up and bring them down a little bit in size. They were all rough cut at about 1 1/8 inch and a quarter. And so they were all just a tiny bit different size. And since they were cut, green, obviously and they're only 1 inch thick, they tend to twist and warp just a little bit. So using the table saw, I was able to clean them up and bring them down to 3/4 of an inch, so they're all the exact same size, and those stickers dry actually pretty quick, surprisingly. So I think we'll show more footage of that in another video, but yeah, this took a good chunk of time to actually get these built. But like I said, they'll be super useful, and when I get around to building my solar kiln, hopefully this spring I will have that constructed. I will actually be designing that so that it'll have 2 sets of doors, and they'll both be 8.5 or 9 feet wide, so that when I get a pallet full of lumber that I've just milled, I can just pick it up with the tractor and stick it right in the solar kiln. That'll be a pretty slick way to go. So here's a picture of that first 6-foot pallet. So it's got a set of runners on every 2-foot mark, and that worked out pretty good. That's actually what's on the tractor at the moment. It's the lumber under that tarp is sitting on that particular pallet. But here's another image of it. One of the things I've done is actually put some eye hooks in the ends of in both sides of the 2 end blocks, so I can put a strap over everything and keep it dry. I used that to tie down some metal roofing that I've got over it. And that's something I think I'll actually do going forward for all of my pallets until I get an actual lumber drying shed. But here's what I've been working on in this video. This is the first of the 8-foot pallets, and you can see there's some more pieces here set on both sides for the runners and the rails to make that 3rd pallet. There's some boards there that I figured while I've got the circular saw, I'm going to go ahead and just cut those scrap boards up for firewood. But that's pretty much where I got to for video footage for this day. So, as always, thank you for watching. God bless you and yours, and I hope you are able to stay safe and healthy out there.